Heidi ho, everyone, and welcome once again to Learn to Trade live and free. This is me, Jeff, coming to you live from Tasmania in Australia, and I'll be joined very, very shortly by Ash, who will be coming to us live from Brighton in the UK. Glad you could join us, and let's hope this is a fantastically profitable week of trading. Just a profitable one would be okay, but a fantastically profitable one would be just far better. I'm going to start off with, as always, for me on a weekday, that is placing an order for a potential breakout of the pound versus the US dollar. As we head towards the opening of the US session. So let's set that up straight away. Now, those of you who haven't been in before, or even those of you who have been here for ages and ages, please don't forget, this is in beta test mode. This is not a proven strategy at this point in time. And as we continue to develop it, we will keep you up to date in how we're going to change, if any. But we will be changing, of course, as we go through. I'll better share the right screen with you, had I not. There you go. Happy days. What we're looking to do is trade the bottom of the range of the last three candles be on an hourly chart. This one, and this one, prior to the open of London session. And for this purpose today, we are currently looking at a level of 1.3201, and we will go short at that point. We'll put our stop loss above the candle on which we will go short. If we go long, we will set an order for both short and long. And if we're triggered into the short, we'll cancel the long and vice versa. The long entry, I think, is pretty safe to say that will be 1.3244. So we can actually put that in there now. 1.3244. The stop loss will be there at 1.3229. So we'll change that to 1.3229. See, it hasn't gone that far since last Thursday. Now, TP1 will either be half of the candle that we're risking or a strong level of support or resistance. In this case, we're going long, and we've got a monthly pivot and a daily pivot dead ahead. So that would eliminate us taking the trade because there is no room to take profit before either of those points. So therefore, we won't be taking long. We will only be taking a short, and I'll give you the parameters for those. Hang on, I'll just get rid of all this. Oops. There we go. So the buy is the non-event today. The sell. At this point, I'll have to wait till candle closes, but at this point, I can certainly tell you the stop loss, which will be at 1.3222. 1.3222. Oops. There we go. 1.3222. Now, the entry at this point in time will be at 1.3197, but if we get a low lower than that, which is, of course, entirely possible in the next 20 seconds, we will have to change that. I'll put it in for now, 1.3197. And I will stand by to set that trade myself. It may have to be very quick here because we're at the bottom of the bar, very, very close to it. Okay, there's the new one. So that level will be correct. TP1 I will come back to that. I'll just set the trade. So it's a sell, and here's a sell stop at 1.3197. And the stop loss is 1.3222. Okay, so that can go in. And now our take profit levels. All right, we're risking, what, 25 pips? So we'd want to take profit at 12 or a strong level of support or resistance, which of course would be that low, but it's outside the 12, so we'll take profit at 12. So that would be 1.3185 TP1, 1.3185. And at that point, we remove half of our stake and move our stops 12 pips above entry. TP2 will be double the risk that we're taking. So again, 25 pips becomes 50. 50 from 3197 is 3147. Okay. So at that point, TP2, you can move your stops to entry and do nothing else. Let it run, or you could take a little bit more off the table if you so chose. You could take another, well, you could take quarter of your stake off and leave a quarter to run as far as pound US dollar is willing to take us. So that's it for today. The breakout trade is set, and those are the parameters. No long for today, only the short we are interested in. Righto, I did hear him sneak into the room there at some stage a few minutes ago. G'day, Ash.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Going okay, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I can never find which one. It seems to change every week. Is it different again this week? Or it certainly looked different on my platform. I was scrabbling around to see which one it was in, but
no,
looks like we're in the right place. It's the same, is it? Oh, it always looks different to me on my screen, but it's okay. So. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, mate. Doing pretty well. We've almost picked the wrong day to be involved today because it's US Labor Day. And,
yes, and Canada as well. So yeah, there won't be too much happening in the later session, I wouldn't think.
No, and I'll be kind of surprised if there's that much happening in this session. I'll grab screen for a little while if you like, mate.
Yes, by all means, mate.
Give you a little bit
Alan.
of a.
G'day, Sino, Brian, Shukri. How are we doing, guys? Swee, hi. How are you? Glad you're all in and managed to survive the weekend. Actually, I've just opened my charts like 10 minutes before we went on air, and hang on 2 secs. Sorry about that. And I haven't seen too much of what's going on, but what I did see is not a whole lot of good stuff for me. I was in Pound Aussie over the weekend. That's gone. And everything's coming back at me at the moment. That's not such a bad thing for a couple of them because I want to scale in, but no good news so far today, mate.
No, I don't think so. And I think, focus is going to be on the ECB on Thursday. Obviously, we've seen this pretty bleak-looking sell-off in the markets over the course of the last few days of last week. So let's just have a quick roundup and see what's going on right now. DAX in Germany actually probably don't want to look on the dailies. Let's have a look on the hourly. DAX in Germany looks like it's just having a bit of a pickup, which doesn't look too bad at all. The Dow Jones Industrials on the futures market is probably going to follow it. It looks at this stage like we're going to get a risk on session. It will probably be trapped. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see fairly choppy price action, for the course of the whole day. Actually, I'm not really looking for any specific movements. The Nasdaq is obviously the most fascinating move of all, with a huge drop to the downside. And the real question comes in now. Not so much, will the Nasdaq continue to drop? Because if global equities are coming down, then it looks like it doesn't matter which one that you're in. They're all on their way. But I think the most fascinating thing here is the fact that the Nasdaq. Let me change this chart. The Nasdaq is the underperformer. In percentage terms, I think the Nasdaq has been hammered by almost 10% from the high point to the low point. So we got 1244 there. The low point was down 1116. So it seemed, it dropped down around about 1200 pips in the course of the last 2 days of last week. So 10% drop in the Nasdaq is huge, absolutely huge. Now you can compare that right across the board. In fact, let's do it on TradingView because it's easier to actually show you the measurements. And it really does, as I say, now start to beg the question: is not so much is the market shifting from upside to downside, but is the market shifting its focus from this tech story into maybe some value, because the stock market hasn't really proved or the charts really haven't proved that we are going significantly lower at this point. All it's sort of said is that that there's a big kickback at these particular prices. But let's have a look. The Nasdaq up here is measuring down from the highest point to the lowest point. It came down. It wasn't quite 10%, actually 6.7%. But that's a huge drop over a 2-day period. Nearly a 7% drop there is massive. You compare it even to the FTSE. There isn't a particularly strong market right now. The last few days of last week. Let's do it on the 4-hourly. I think we'll see it a little bit easier. So the last few days of last week, this is what we had with the FTSE. High to low, more like 3%. So even the FTSE outperformed the Nasdaq by double last week. If we're just talking about the drop. And that is significant. That's hugely significant to see the most powerful markets, since the COVID-19 situation started, drop as it did, is a really big message, I think, out there. Look at the Dow. The Dow only dropped down 4% as well. So you could go right across the board and compare these to the tech story and sort of and start to say, well, if this is happening here, what was happening on the other outperformers? So if we have a look on silver. Silver's, if we take from the 1st of September, so the month of September so far for silver, high to low point, 9%. Compare that to gold. And 1st of September, high to low point, 3.7%. So the outperformers, really the message here is the outperformers become the underperformers, depending on which way the market is going. And it really does kind of like, it helps us. Can we buy Tesla? Well, you know what? Yeah, you could buy Tesla, but you can only really buy Tesla if the market starts to show some strength. Because the point I'm making is that if you are bullish on the market, then you want to pick the things that are more susceptible to those moves to the upside, and the likes of the tech name, the likes of the tech area, much more susceptible to a bullish market. And sort of knowing that helps in a lot of ways, because it starts to refine what charts that you will look at. We all know that risk on, risk off is, if we are risk on in a market, then we should be looking at equities and the Aussie, if you like, in currencies. And if we're risk off, then we should be looking at the yen. So if you want to kind of like make a choice on some of these things, then it starts to say, it's really obvious that gold at this particular stage doesn't look like an attractive opportunity. The attractive opportunity, if we're long, should be silver. And the attractive opportunity, if we're short, again, should be silver, because the outperformers become the underperformers quite significantly in this kind of thing. And so, or if you want something a bit more stable and you prefer something a bit more gentle, then you look at gold, or you look at the FTSE, or maybe even the DAX. Now let's just check the VIX today, because the VIX did get a huge pop to the upside. And it's holding this level here, but I wonder whether we do need to come and test. And this is some of the issue from this particular point, whether we are bullish or bearish on the stocks. Do we have the price that we want to hi, hey Lewis, do we have the price that we want to make them an attractive proposition? And this, the Nasdaq, the last 4 hours of last week on the on the VIX was a huge move back to the downside, and it is a message saying the VIX popped to the upside and we should be looking at shorts. Now it's down here. Really, aside from this bar, which we'll need to see develop and ultimately close, what kind of phase are we in? Do we really want to be jumping into the downside at this point? And this kind of suggests no to me. I know there are other commentators that would say the opposite. So it's only an opinion, and nobody can be right on this stuff. But this is suggesting to me that we haven't topped out completely with the things like the Nasdaq and bottomed out with the DAX, and probably not, maybe not topped out with silver either just yet. Now this is the Nasdaq. Look at it on a 4 hour. It is on a point of fairly significant support on a 4 hour chart here. It's got enough touches, and the bounce has come into play. So I would anticipate a bounce back up on the Nasdaq up to this level, test where it came from. Sorry, that's not the one I want. I want the Nasdaq 100. Which is there. And you can see on the daily, it's probably easier to see with the Nasdaq that we are at the significant level here. If we look at the trend line, then these are the touches right along here. So we are in a buy zone on the Nasdaq, and I am looking for a push back to the upside before a more significant sell-off. We've illustrated that September before an election tends to be pretty weak. And we've illustrated as well, I think, that the move to the upside, there's another horizontal level on the daily, which would suggest a hold here. We've also illustrated that given what happened in August, a move to the downside in September is fairly likely. But I don't think that we should be packing up just yet and saying that the market upside is done, because I think there might be one more push before we genuinely see some downside. So I suppose in the near term, I'm not going to call myself bullish, but I'm much more interested in buying the market at this stage than selling it off. Nasdaq up to around about the 1200 mark, 12,000 mark, maybe 11,900, between 11,900 and 12,000. I think it's interesting, and we're currently down at fives. And if that was to happen to get us up to the 12 mark from this particular point, we're looking at around about a full 5% gain. So I'm looking for 5% upside in the Nasdaq, and then the sell-off to come into play. Before that, mate, I'm not really that interested. I think I'm looking for some buy signals down here.
Today's not the day, you think?
It may not be, because we've got we don't have enough really out there that is going to drive the market, but it could be. It could be. I mean, it might be a foundation day, more than anything else. I wouldn't be surprised if we see fairly flat price action. Volumes are going to be fairly light, I would have thought, on the markets today. But let's have a look at Forex Factory. Not really a great deal to report. The dollar Swiss has now taken off to the upside, and this also becomes a problem for the US equities. And if we are looking for opportunities to go long, if we are people that don't particularly like, we'll get to Brexit in a minute as well. If we don't particularly like going short, because everybody has a bias, and everybody, you will find when you do a journal that you are more successful going in one direction than the other. And it's just the nature of the game, you know. And more often than not, if you are an indice trader, you're probably more comfortable going long because you end up doing it more. So the practice of going long is more practiced, I suppose. You know, you're more likely to kind of practice going long because equities tend to go long more than they go short. And when they go short heavy. You know, when it happens, it
And
really does
fast.
happen.
Yeah.
And they end fast, yeah. So not the easiest trades to get hold of. So if you prefer to go long, then going long on something like the Nasdaq at this stage would not seem sensible. But something, you know, a European equity like a European industry like the DAX would be, I think, more sensible. Even dare I say the CAC on, which I would never think that I'd say that to go long on the French industry, just because it's just a bit of a dog. But they've had stimulus recently, which would suggest that if anything was going to maybe outperform a little bit, it would probably be the French market. So French or German, possibly the FTSE might come in, but that does lead us on to Brexit. Alan's asking, how's Brexit negotiations going? They're going poorly. And this week we've had Boris Johnson come out and say on the 15th of October, I thought he said, actually. I don't know why I thought the 15th of October, but he's also saying this week. This week, yes, 15th of October is right. So the Brexit trade talks plunge into crisis as Britain warns the European Union that it could effectively override the divorce deal it signed unless the bloc agrees to a trade deal on the 15th of October. So the the negotiations aren't going particularly well. You know, there still isn't common ground between the two parties, and the lack of common ground is really over two distinct things. One is the fisheries, where the UK want to sell their fishing quotas into the rest of the world, and not allow European boats to come and use the British waters to fish. So you know, almost creating a competition imbalance there, and the EU really isn't keen on that at all. It's not keen on not being allowed into UK waters. You know, they want to send their fishing boats into the UK waters as well. So that's one aspect, and I think the other aspect from memory is the alignment of goods. You know, effectively the UK could have different rules and regulations on their goods, which the EU don't want, because again they want fair competition between their partners and the UK partners. So if the UK can cut corners in a few ways, then they can sell their goods a lot cheaper. And the EU just isn't happy about that. They want an alignment of quality, and if that is there, then it means that their members are equally as competitive, and then it's about price points. So they are quite far away. The UK's argument is that they will the likes of Canada have had a free trade deal done with the EU, and the EU haven't asked them to go into their waters effectively and start kind of, you know, fishing in their area. So I think you could see the argument both ways. Is Johnson's seat is shaking? Maybe. It's difficult to know. I mean, the press seem to be reporting that it's Boris Johnson is losing some ground here, and that Keir Starmer, the opposition leader, is much more popular, and Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, is much more popular, and they're even talking of him walking into the next election. But he's only been in power for 6 months or so. And you know, that's a 4-year term that he's going to be in power for. So unlikely at this stage that anything the press are talking about is of any significance. I think they're just talking because that's what they do. Will the COD Wars of the 70s return? Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm not too up on that story, but it's possible. It's possible. I mean, it certainly does. It is a sticking point. You know, it's a big sticking point that that the EU and the UK have. So there was reports last week that the EU leaders said that they didn't want Barnier to be negotiating anymore. And they were going to come in and effectively rescue the deal, but that's also been swept under the carpet. And that's the problem, is depending on where you read what you read, everything just needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. You're asking me how the negotiations are going. From the headlines and from what the politicians are saying, it doesn't sound like it's going particularly well. The UK really is starting to puff its chest up now and saying, look, if you guys don't give us a free trade deal, then we'll go to the Australian style deal, and effectively, be like a Singapore on the edge of the European Union, and undercut everybody. So the EU should be concerned, but and also as a big trading partner, the EU could lose a trading partner, and people that a country that buys a lot of EU goods, so they are losing a whole bunch of money that way as well. But the problem is that the EU also has to protect their own club. So if they allow the UK to have the deal that they want, and they're probably the deal they should get as well, if the UK was just a country coming in completely cold, then they probably would get this free trade deal, and there probably wouldn't be so much, we'll come into your waters and do all this sort of thing. That'd be fine, but we can't really be completely comparable to Canada, because we were part of the club, and it wouldn't be good for the EU to let one of the members of the club go and flourish, because then what happens to the rest of the countries of the EU? Do they want something similar where they just want to leave? So there's a lot of calculations to be going on, with those negotiations. I think the worst thing for both parties is no deal, and I think both parties recognise that. But I suppose both parties also are at this stage where they're saying it can't be a deal at all costs. So they're both posturing still. But yeah, Thursday is the day, and I wonder whether, because of Thursday being the day, we are in a bit of a hiatus when it comes down to these markets. So not a great deal going on today. Foreign currency reserves in Switzerland, not a number to get excited about. Let's just have a look at the graph on that. Well, they're building, aren't they? It's actually quite significant, maybe. Foreign currency reserves in Switzerland are building quite significantly. Nothing on Tuesday, so it looks like another damp squib of a day on Tuesday. Looks like the CAD's in focus this week with an overnight statement. Probably not a great deal of movement there. Let's just have a look at this. The money supply in China has been picking up as well, but this is the big one. We'll get to Thursday and check out what the EU have got to say. But it looks to me like Thursday's the real day to kind of get excited, which therefore probably means Wednesday it all kind of starts to kick off. But until then, mate, I'm just looking for I guess what would be a pullback in a downtrend. Or a continuation in an uptrend, depending on which way you're viewing the market right now. But I'm looking for just a bit more upside before we start to come down a bit more significantly. Not a bad bar by the end of Friday. It was a little bit bleak, but if you were tuning in to the Nasdaq around about an hour and a half before the end of the day, it was looking grim. So a fairly decent buyback, and then a sell-off towards the very, very end. So we bought back, and then we started to sell off again towards the very end. But look at that. Actually, not towards the end of the day, but towards the end of the UK session, it was selling off, and then when the UK closed, the Nasdaq started to recover somewhat. But by the end of the session, it was back down here again. So kind of bounding around in the middle, and that's kind of what I'm looking for today.
Yeah, I'm, as I said, I haven't had too much of a look at the charts yet because I knew it was a US holiday, and I have been busy today out in deliveries. A couple of things I do like. I'm a Euro bear.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, just before you get to that, mate, actually, I'm also quite bullish on the dollar. And if you kind of, having a look at how some of these currencies and these cryptocurrencies have reacted over the last few sessions, we're seeing Cardano down 3.3% currently. Bitcoin not quite as bad. I think the Bitcoin's down about 1.2%, or 1.1% maybe. Ethereum also suffering, down. Where are you, Ethereum? Let's do it here. I mean, we can have a look on TradingView for this stuff, but yeah, I see a oh, sorry, here we go. Ethereum down 2.3%. So the dollar looks like it is strengthening currently. Now, if we're looking at the likes of Cardano and Ethereum, Cardano was really it was almost a buying opportunity, but at the end of last week. Here we go. Let's have a look. ADA. But this stuff is just, yeah, it was very close to a buying opportunity at the end of the last week, and it really does depend. What happens to the dollar here, mate, is the crux of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the dollar that looks to me like the buying opportunity with Cardano? And maybe we've also already seen that low, but somewhere around about the 8 cents mark now would be of interest, or maybe it is here between 8 and 9. It would be of interest. But initially, I thought maybe maybe the initial bounce point that we got to was the buying opportunity, as we see that there's just that little trend line in there, and I thought maybe Cardano was going to start picking up again, but the head and shoulders looks like it is currently playing out. Seeing this lower line down here, I think would be of interest, and then seeing what happens. Bitcoin also looks like it's on a fairly good level of support, or getting very, very close to a decent level of support down here as well. Along here, not quite there yet, but it looks like that's getting to a point around about the 9.697 area. It's starting to would start to look of interest to me with Bitcoin and Ethereum, which maybe the winner for my selection on a personal level. And it's really because of what Shukri was saying last week about the guys that run this stuff. I've always preferred Ethereum or Cardano to Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin story is just a bit it's just a bit old and tired, if I'm honest. I think Ethereum's still got plenty of room, and I think that Cardano, if they can get their act together, has got some room as well. The big question of whether they get their act together is probably the big one, but they've come so far. It'd be surprising to see them not now convert and actually take it to the next level. So I think that they probably will, or they'll try their damnedest. But I like Ethereum already. I quite like the way that Ethereum is. So $300 on Ethereum, I think, would be of interest to me. It's at 347 right now, so a little bit more room to the downside to travel. And that would suggest at this stage that we see further dollar upside. And same with silver. I don't think silver's a price point that I'm interested in just yet. So I'd want to see a little bit more downside with this one. Maybe not the trend line, or maybe it comes to the trend line, but much later in the picture, around about that 15th of October, possibly. If silver was down to around about 24.50, then I think it would be of interest. Let's just have a quick look on the weekly. Yeah, it could come a lot lower than that before being of interest, but still like Bitcoin. Sorry, I still like the cryptocurrency. Still like these commodities. We don't appear to be in a time where we should be looking at long cryptos or long commodities. We should probably be focusing on long DXY or certainly long dollar against some of these other indices. And like you, mate, I would be long. Short the euro dollar, and I'd be long the dollar Swissy. Wish I'd got into that, but are you in that?
We got into it last week. I'm out of it.
You're in and out. Okay.
Yeah, I was in and out. It looks like, I think Alan said he might still. I don't know if he's still in. Said he got TP1, but yeah, mistimed really. I suppose the entry.
Yeah, it was a tricky one. It was a tricky one because it dipped under that monthly pivot, and it looked like it was Alan's out now as well.
Yeah, but
you still in?
Potentially a way in.
Alan's still in.
Yeah, I'm out, mate.
You're out, Alan's in. Well, that's good. At least somebody's in that one, because I quite like that. That was always my favourite one. It was the COT data I thought was the most damning on the Swissy, which we can have a look at later. But where are you, dollar? There it is, dollar Swiss. Yeah, it became difficult as it came under the monthly pivots. It became difficult. It looks like there's still opportunities with this one, actually. A little bit of a sinking of the dollar at the minute.
Say that again, sorry.
There's a little bit of a sinking of the dollar, as we speak. Yeah, looks like
it's struggling. The 93 handle. If it can crack back above that, I think it might get on its way. But gee, it's hard. It really is a tough one. I've been, as you know, struggling with the US dollar for quite some time and sacked it many times. It's one that I still very, very cautious about, because it has this, at the moment, tendency to be hot and cold, mainly cold.
Yeah. Shukri, cryptos only invest long if you have a trade on the other side to cover your losses. Going to describe that tomorrow night. And you know what? I'm not even due in tomorrow night, but I'm going to come in for that, because there's nothing I like more than a bit of hedging. So I'll be joining you for that session as well tomorrow, mate. I think I'll have a listen in.
It does sound like an interesting way to look at it, and yeah, let's not pull all our eggs in one basket. You've got a couple of other questions there, I think. Have you covered those?
Which ones? Which other ones have we got here?
Up a little bit higher. I can't remember now what they were.
Ash, do you like Cardano because its tradability or because of its fundamentals as a crypto? Really because of its fundamentals as a crypto. And that's why I like Ethereum, for both of them, for the very same reason. They seem to have. I like the cryptocurrencies that have source. You know, that they have a foundation for other cryptocurrencies to launch themselves off. So I appreciate that the other ones that are launched are probably much better opportunities for profit, but they don't interest me. You know, what interests me is the ecosystem, if you like. So I like Cardano and I like Ethereum for that very fact, and that's another reason I'm not that keen on Bitcoin, because I think that those ones have got a much greater chance of surviving, because they are needed and they're going to be necessary. You know, if the other cryptocurrencies do really, really well, then they'll always come back and use the foundation that they were created from, and also I think the other thing about it is that if a cryptocurrency does really well, and the next developers come along and find out that they were using the Ethereum ecosystem, then it's attractive, you know, for more and more people to go and use that particular way of building your coin. So that's what I like about Cardano. The problem for Cardano, I think, is that they are playing catch up a little bit. I think that they're a little bit behind the curve. But the question really is, does that end up actually becoming their strength, because they're able to kind of overcome some of the glitches and mistakes that were that have been produced before, and I think that seems to be their ethos. That seems to be their the whole sort of thing about Cardano, that they're going to do it better than anybody else. The question of whether they can do that is the one that needs to be had. But I think what Shukri's talking about only investing long if you have a trade on the other side to cover is the way to, that I would completely concur with that, and that would be my approach anyway. At this stage, I wouldn't just want to go into Cardano and say I'm going to go buy that. I'm really kind of, I'm much more interested in going, right, what can I hedge it up against? And Bitcoin to me looks like a really good hedging tool. So that's probably the way I will use Bitcoin. Oh, okay. So Ada's a great story, but no use Kasem yet. People are beating Cardano at the game, and that's the problem, isn't it? Have they kind of overshot expectation and undershot delivery? And it looks like, from what Shukri's saying, maybe they have. Which brings us back to Ethereum. That seems to be maybe the safer play. So I'm just waiting for Ethereum to come down to $300, and then I'm going to be buying it up. That's my play on Ethereum. It might end up being slightly before. Yeah, maybe that's the thing, Alan. Maybe the thing with Cardano, and it's no different to any big companies. Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, the Mark Zuckerberg, these Elon Musk, these kind of important players, Bill Gates. They are the thing that makes their products really. And I think the problem I've got a little bit with Cardano is that the guy in charge seems to be I thought he might be a bit of a Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk type of character, but it seems to me like he thinks he is, and he projects it okay, but he's a bit of a fake. So I've got a bit of an issue with him, and that might keep me away from Cardano. So sorry, mate, I cut you up with your US dollar. You were talking about the euro dollar trade.
No, all good, mate. Don't know if there's a trade there, but certainly I am a bear, and it's against pretty much everything, which is a little bit weird. Given that the Euro Aussie, and I'll have a look at that in the I will sack Charles on your behalf, Shukri. Charles, you're fired. Done. It's that easy.
Sounding like Donald Trump, mate.
I'm going to say, where have I heard that before? I need some screen. Okay, we can do that. Which one is the question? And that one there, I think. Righto. And there's euro dollar. Now, euro dollar, I mean, we speak about euro dollar all the time, and we have a look at the big picture. And at the moment, it's interesting because on two different charts, this one is IFS. I think I'll just sack IFS too. Yeah, I was going to say FIFS, but that's not very fair. But I'll sack them because their execution is just not as good as I would expect, frankly. And Fusion is far, far better. And again, I say to you, I have absolutely no affiliation with either. Certainly, you probably gathered that certainly none with IFS, but I don't have an affiliation or IB or anything with Fusion. But I think their execution is far, far better, and that's what's most important to me on the smaller time frames is execution. Everything else is kind of a bonus. So with the euro, we've had a look at this chart over the last few weeks and decided that this was the level that we would expect to bounce from. And at this point in time, we're not getting too much, to be fair. That's the monthly chart. We're getting a box range, but this box range looks really cute to me. And the reason I say that is it's got one of my favorite little trading patterns on it. It's my version of Three Little Indians. And those of you who've got absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, it's really false break, false break, false break, but getting higher. That one there's a little bit of a stretch, I suppose, if you like, because that really is the top of the range. But there's the second one, another fake out. And here's the third one, another fake out. All of this level. And when I see that, the very first thing that I expect to happen, or the next thing that I expect to happen, is that price will break to the low side of that range. Now, it sometimes doesn't go too far, and then we get a continuation of trend. So it may well be a signal for a clean out here of everybody who's long and got their stops in this area. will be sadly disappointed. So that may well be the case. But as soon as I see that pattern, I'm a bear, instant bear. And it doesn't matter what cross I'm trading or whatever the case is. If I see a breakout like that, then I'm expecting it ultimately to break to the low side. And again, it may not go too far. So the key to playing it, of course, is to get in as early as you possibly can on the back of perhaps a lower high. There's a little, I guess, favorite play of mine sitting there at the moment, but 2 of these in a row is really something that I don't like to see. So the daily chart's not filling me with absolute confidence to go just yet. Rather, I'd like to see a clear lower high here. And at this point, that's just not there. But I may have to seek it on yet another time frame. So let's do that and go down a couple and see what we can find. So 4 hour is a little bit messy, but there's that daily trade line right there. And that actually doesn't look too dusty. And there may well be a lower high. May well, may not. It's a decent insurance bar, I've got to say. Let me have a closer look. Or actually a wider look. So the risk there would be 60 pips, but it's in a dreadful place. You got about 1-to-1 to the bottom of the range. I'd much prefer to see price get up to here, I've got to say, and give me something that looks like maybe that, something like that on the pivot. Something like that would be good as well. So a high test bar basically on these pivots. So if I saw this, for instance, sitting here, a candle that looked something like that with a white body, that would be my signal to go. And I'd place my entry underneath that bar, my stop loss above it, anticipating that this will be the lower high, which will send price down to here in the first instance. And then, pursuant to what I just said, false break, false break, false break, I fully expect this to break to the low side. So I would, yes, make myself safe when we hit a support level, but I would only take probably maximum 1/2 off the table and leave the rest to trade that breakout portion. Then I would look for a clear support level, and not a soft one, maybe a hard support level. Let me see if I can find that. No, it's tough. It is tough. There's nothing there. Nothing there forever. There's got to be something somewhere. There. Looks like a fair way away. Yeah, it's in there somewhere. All right, let's see where it is. Okay, that'll do. So the level I would look to take some more profit off the table would be 116.95, so just under the 117 mark. So if we can get 150 pips out of this trade, maybe leave a little bit on in case it does go. But ultimately, once we get down to that level, I'm probably looking for this to go the other way. And this follows my theme on dollar rally, but only for a short period of time. So I don't see any reason for the dollar to rally its socks off anytime soon. There may, of course, be changes that will accommodate that, but at this point in time, I'm absolutely a dollar bear like everybody else, but I totally see at the moment there is potential for rally, and that, as I say, exactly suits this potential break to the low side as well. It looks pretty close there, but that'll be the trade I'll be looking for on euro US dollar. But the theme is a little bit upset by this one. If you're going with euro weakness, so it's not so much euro weakness, but dollar strength is probably where I'm coming from. And against the Aussie, it's kind of weird because I'm an Aussie bull and the euro bear, yet I see this as a potential for euro Aussie to go long. So you need to probably cover your ears and not listen to this because it's kind of, just counterintuitive, I suppose, to my actual thought process. But what I see is the bottom of this range, and we spoke about this last week, and we were looking for this play up to the monthly pivot, and it didn't come. It just happened. Like, wow, that's a skyrocket taking off, How you get into that is quite beyond me. There was a little hint of it here with these 3 high test bars, but yeah, it just took off and away it went and didn't come back until, of course, it has hit the monthly pivot now, put in a little bit of a double hit off that, and everything else has been indecisive. But this may well be the higher low that forces this back to the top of the range. I'm less inclined to trade that because it's totally, as I said, weird. It doesn't go with my bias, which is euro bear, Aussie bull. How I get around that, it won't change the way I trade, because if I see the setup, I'll take the trade, but it will be far less risk than it would be had my bias been in concert, if you like, with this particular setup, which is long. But it's definitely potentially there. The issue you would have is where you're going to get in, because you're trading into pivots in this area no matter what you do. So potential still higher low. You got to be kidding. The potential higher low in this area looks a lot more tradable than if this was the current or the real higher low. It may well be, but I won't be jumping in just yet. EuroCAD, look, this is taking the longest time, really. This is my Batman mask, isn't it? Is this the one? Yeah, this is my Batman mask, and he's really got a bit of a problem with his ear, has dear old Batman. Maybe he's got I don't know, maybe he's got headphones on or something, but only on the left hand or only on the right hand side. It's not playing out anywhere near as quickly as I would like, of course. There's a tendency to, when things aren't happening the way they should, to think that maybe they're not going to happen at all. I can't buy into that with this particular scenario, because that is such a strong signal. It is a massive double top. There's no question about that. That's a weekly chart. But if you go a little bit wider, you can see the form that precedes it around about this 158, 59, 60 mark. It just doesn't want to go there. So I don't know why I would think now would be the time that this will break through. It doesn't make any sense to me from a technical point of view either to go long here. So I've still got to have that bearish bias, and I still do, and I'm still waiting to get back in. But at this point in time, I ain't. We shall see how the week unfolds. How I get back in from here is a little bit tricky, because what you can see is this consolidation that we've now gone into, and we've virtually hit the bottom of that range, which of course is the descending channel. So the next thing I expect to happen once that happens is we hit the top again. So I may have to wait for that to occur before I look to trade this short for a, goodness knows, about 5th, 6th, 7th time or something like that in the last few months. But I'm still there. I'm still a bear, and we'll be continuing to look for shorts on EuroCAD if and when they come up. Again, it's not necessary to go to the top here. If I see a setup, I'll certainly take it short. But again, it will be a little bit less in stake terms than it would be had we visited the top. I've got a few questions here. There may be possible euro-dollar M30 slingshot trade for the short if it forms an ABC on 30-degree trade line. Okay, let's go back and have a look at that. M30. And let me get rid of that. Don't do that to me. Okay, we're looking for ABC on the 30-degree trade line. Okay, the only trade line I see is this one. And maybe that's not even it. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, I'd prefer to go with that one because it's got more points of contact. If you're talking ABC, perhaps you're meaning false break ABC. So in other words, something that looks like this. And I'd certainly buy into that, most definitely. So a little bit of consolidation here, back underneath the trade line and daily pivot confluence area, retest that after taking out the low of the day. And yes, then you've got yourself a trade. So that becomes A, B, C, like so. As far as a long is concerned, and you're not talking longs, I understand that. As far as a long is concerned, and maybe the 30-degree trade line you're talking about, which hasn't yet formed. Okay, that's the one side, no, cool. That hasn't yet formed, but potential for this to go A, B, C that way is also there. But it'll be, virtually the same scenario, trading the break and retest of the support trade line if it forms, or a false break of the resistance trade line. Totally on board with that, absolutely. The one thing that makes it a little bit interesting is the double bottom that we've got sitting here. Now on the 30-minute chart, that's nowhere near as significant as it is on the weekly one that I just showed you on Euro CAD. So don't think I'm favouring one over the other. Well, I am, because one's far stronger than the other. There's also a couple of pivots here that haven't been tested yet, so that may well be the case before we go short again, that we'll want to get up to here. There's all sorts of possibilities. There's no question about that. But yeah, in the short term, absolutely back under here, retest, and the ABC short. Like it. Works for me. Continuing with did I see Euro Yen question there? Yes, cling to pivots for this week, Euro Yen. I'll get there, Crystal. I'll be there in a tick. What about Euro Pound? Didn't Julian say he was looking for shorts at 89.50 last night? I don't know, mate, if he did, to be honest, because we're already in Euro Pound. Where's 89? That's now. Okay. Well, I can see why he would be. We've got a monthly pivot here, and if we were to get, he'd be looking for a ring high here to trade it short, I would think. Problem we've got at the moment with Euro Pound is that little descending channel, which has now been broken. Is it strong? Yeah. Probably I can make a better channel than that. It's getting a bit old in the tooth, that one, eh? Yeah, I don't know where it is now. Don't like it anymore. I used to like it. Let me see if I can form one. No, it's too far away from here, see. Let me switcheroo. I'm not a massive fan, I've got to say, but it was a far better channel than it currently is because it's now got a little bit too long in the tooth. Okay, so yeah, I like the level. I totally get why you'd be looking at that level. I must have missed that one, but scaling back in. Don't forget we've taken 2 lots of profit here, so we're absolutely entitled to scale into this. And there's probably no better point than right here in terms of immediacy. That becomes a little bit of an issue. So you'd be a little bit bold to trade that bar because it hasn't tested the monthly pivot, and it has, well, it's got an hour to go, but anything can happen. If it did both, if it tested the monthly pivot, then gave me an entry underneath that trade line, then that becomes interesting to me. Yeah, that does become interesting. We shall see. Nothing concrete at the moment. Euro yen. Yeah, I've got that in a range. That is for sure. Crystal, we've got monthly pivot and daily pivot very, very close together. And of course, the weekly pivot's just above our range, our current range. Again, interestingly, we've got 3 equal lows sitting there on a 30-minute chart. What's that look like on a 4-hour? Looks a tad bullish, doesn't it? But I like your analysis because, we're hugging the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot. Why and what is going to force us away from there? I mean, you can see how strong this support level is. And I guess if you put a rectangle around that, well, we've got one, sorry. Let's make that a little bit more obvious. And you can see, well, I think you can see. Now we'll keep it to there. You can see how confined this has been. Actually, I think we spoke about this last week or the week before. How confined this has really been since, 2 years ago. We've actually been in there for 2 years, a little breakout either side, but essentially we're somewhere between 126 and 125, aren't we, in that very, very tight range. And yes, I don't think I'd be expecting that to change too much. Of course, we can take advantage of that if we find that we've got something to bounce off. And I guess the smaller time frames for now are going to tell us that. But yeah, it's a mess. As you say, it's pivot bound. And I've got to see it get away from either one of you. Maybe hit the weekly pivot would be the best option, and then give us a lower high, or obviously down to the bottom and give us a higher low. But yeah, very, very tough to trade at the moment, Euro yen. From that technical perspective, we're in a bit of a bind there. Pivot bound, as you say. So that is pretty much the euro catered for, apart from Euro Swissy, which again, if you have a look at this on a bigger picture, it's a little bit confusing. That's the 4-hour chart. We'll go to the daily. But this was where we started the whole conversation, right, with the 3 little Indians. And last week, of course, we were looking for that long off the monthly pivot, and it just shot up there like a skyrocket. Now that lower high becomes very, very interesting to us. And I've been over it, so let's not dwell on it. But yes, of course, that becomes that's the major one I'm looking for. Really keen to trade this short, but I've got to have the right scenario, and we'll wait on that one. So that's pretty much, as I say, the Euros or EuroCAD. We did look at EuroCAD. The other one that I'm interested in this week and is on my watch list was the one that we've been taken out of this morning. I had my stop loss round about here somewhere, I think, for pound Aussie. Also traded this on we got TP1 only out of this. We traded along here and only got TP1, so it's a small loser for us. But I'm looking to get back into it, and I just need the right kind of candles and at this point I'm not getting them. Maybe that, if it had a black body, would be okay, but it doesn't. So I won't be looking to trade that. It's going to make it tough. And again, the pivots are really in the way here. I think we probably need to bounce off one or two, come back here, give us a higher low. Then we might even think about trading it. But until that time, I think no. So they're really the four that I'm concentrating on early in the week. Of course, things can change and change very quickly. I'm not sure that today is going to be one of those scenarios, but we shall see. Also looking for CAD Swissy to kick us back into better profits as we take out the highs here. I'm hoping that's the case, and I do have a little bit of a penchant for that one. We're free trading this as well. So scaling into this, I wouldn't mind either. I might look at this tomorrow and see what the daily candle looks like. If it looks similar to what it is now, there may well be an opportunity to go into this off that insurance bar. So tomorrow morning, if that candle looks like that, I may well place a long above there. Don't like going long here, I've got to say, but the insurance bar allows me to do that. This is looking like it might take off. I don't want to miss the second wave on that. Pound Kiwi also, this is getting towards where we want to be looking to scale into that one as well. Has come back a long way, of course, as you can see. But we were expecting that to be the case. This white line here, 196.26, I think I've got it as, is the next point I want to scale into this. So let's get down to here and see if we can pick up another ride on Pound Kiwi as our quest to get it back up to 216 or somewhere thereabouts continues. I'll go through the Aussie pairs a little bit, in the US session, because I think we'll have plenty of time. I don't think there'll be too many trades on offer, to be frank. And I do have an opinion on the Aussie as well that we'll investigate then. I don't think we've been triggered on the pounds. No, we haven't. The US dollar is still trying to crack the 93 handle. And if that's going to be the case, then we might see this euro dollar pick up a nice little entry on that somewhere down the track. How's all your stuff looking, Ash, before we GO?
It's looking flat, mate. Really nothing has moved. I mean, the FTSE is maybe 30 pips from the open, actually, something like that, which is not hugely surprising. It's a kind of 30 pips sort of change from the open, which is not hugely surprising, and it's looking like it's just going to continue to kind of float around. And as I say, I think we almost picked the wrong day to kind of turn up today, because it's going to be quiet, and I think anybody sort of trying to get into anything today may want to rethink that idea and possibly just get prepared for trades later in the week.
I wonder, should we throw that out there to you guys? Would you prefer us not to be here on a public or a bank holiday, or you're happy for us to just go through and business as usual without really seriously thinking about trading? And I'm in that boat pretty much right now. So we'll throw that out to you guys and see what you think.
Yeah, because there's been a few, isn't there? I mean, there was one last week.
Yeah, they come in waves, don't they?
Yeah. One last week or the week before in the UK when there was a bank holiday, and today we got Labour Day, so inevitably things are quite quiet.
Okay, business as usual. All good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to come in and discuss a few things.
Oh, absolutely. Look, there's always something to talk about. There's no question about that. That's just, I thought it's hard to know what you guys actually do want, and whether it's just to follow our trades or whether it's to get an idea of what goes on in our heads or whatever. It's difficult to gauge that. So that's why I popped the question. All good. Happy days, and thank you for the responses, guys. Really appreciate it. Right, mate, I think we're pretty much done for this sesh, and we will do it half an hour before US opens, as usual. A little bit later on, eh?
Yep, sounds good. Okay, yeah, have a good one, guys, and we'll see you back in a few hours, 1:30 UK. And if you're not in that, we'll see you in the morning.
Righto, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Yep, we'll catch you either, as Ash says, just a little bit later on, or back again tomorrow when hopefully there's a little bit more about.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
See you guys. Bye-bye for now.